Thousands of feet under the ocean, in total darkness, a ghost from the past is waking up. We thought we buried it forever, but the ocean never forgets. But that's not even the scariest part. While we worry about old poisons we left behind, a completely invisible threat is turning the ocean into acid, and it's dissolving the homes of marine animals from the inside out. There are literally 2 ticking time bombs under the water right now that could destroy marine life as we know it. One is a giant, forgotten graveyard of toxic bombs. The other is an invisible acid that is everywhere. Both of them are pushing the ocean to its absolute limit, and they are dangerously close to going off. Today, we're exposing the chemical dumps we forgot about and the acid that's eating our oceans from the inside. This sounds like it's from a spy movie, a secret enemy, just sitting on the ocean floor waiting. But I'm not kidding, this is real. In the deepest parts of our oceans, a forgotten arsenal is waking up. After the World Wars, the world had a huge problem. Millions of tons of leftover bombs. Instead of getting rid of them safely, which was expensive, they decided to just yeet them into the ocean. Out of sight, out of mind. They dumped unbelievable amounts of chemical weapons and regular explosives straight into the sea. We're talking about an estimated 300,000 metric tons just in the waters around Germany. Places like the Baltic and North Seas became underwater graveyards for bombs, shells, and barrels full of the most toxic things humans have ever made. Mustard gas, nerve agents, and even arsenic. For decades, the super cold, dark water kept these poisons locked away. But time and salt water destroy everything. Now, after more than 75 years, the metal containers holding these poisons are rusting away and starting to leak. Scientists sent down remote-controlled submarines, and what they found is terrifying. They discovered bombs that are right now leaking poison directly into the water. In the Baltic Sea, which is a super fragile place, scientists found that fish living near these bomb sites have higher rates of tumors and cell damage. They've even found chemicals from TNT inside local fish, which is insane proof that these poisons are getting into the food chain. And once these poisons are in the food chain, they don't just vanish. They build up, going from small fish to bigger fish, and eventually, to the seafood that could be on your plate. Some studies say that without a massive cleanup, the bombs in just one part of the Baltic could keep leaking for hundreds of years. And it's not just bombs. Thousands of shipwrecks from the world wars are scattered across the ocean floor, and many of them are giant oil tankers. These ships are basically giant steel tombs filled with millions of gallons of oil. The Coimbra, a British tanker that sank off the coast of New York in 1942, still had 450,000 gallons of oil in it before it was finally pumped out in 2019. But there are so many other wrecks, like off the coasts of North Carolina and Florida, that are called high risk, but are still just sitting there. Experts on corrosion say these old ships are about to completely collapse. So the question isn't if they'll spill all that toxic oil, but when. This isn't just a problem from the past, either. For decades, people kept using the ocean as their personal garbage can. Off the coast of Los Angeles, in an area bigger than San Francisco, there are now what scientists think could be up to 500,000 barrels of industrial waste. And get this, many of them are probably filled with the poison pesticide DDT. For years, nobody knew how bad it was, but new underwater surveys have found a shocking field of barrels. We now know that a lot of the DDT wasn't even in barrels, it was just dumped straight into the ocean, and it's still poisoning the seafloor today. This chemical nightmare has been linked to horrible cancers in sea lions nearby, where almost 1 in 4 of the animals is affected. This is the first ticking time bomb, a massive, worldwide network of poison traps, all slowly leaking into the ocean. But while that poison is seeping out, another, even bigger danger is changing the water itself. This second threat is not in a barrel. You can't see it, you can't smell it, and you can't point to where it's coming from, because it's everywhere. People are calling it climate change's evil twin, ocean acidification. Our oceans are the biggest carbon sponge in the world. For thousands of years, they've been absorbing CO2 from the air, keeping everything in balance. But since the Industrial Revolution, we have been pumping an insane amount of CO2 into the atmosphere. and the ocean is sucking up about 30% of it. When CO2 dissolves in the ocean, it creates carbonic acid. This one simple chemical reaction is completely changing the ocean's chemistry. It's making the water more acidic. Now, the ocean isn't like battery acid, yet it's naturally a little alkaline. But since we started building factories, the average pH of the ocean's surface has dropped by 0.1. That might not sound like a lot, but the pH scale is logarithmic, which means this is a 30% increase in acidity. If we keep going like this, the ocean's acidity could more than double by the year 2100. For so many ocean animals, this change is a complete disaster. It's causing what some people call the osteoporosis of the sea. Millions of creatures, from corals and clams to oysters and even microscopic plankton, need something called carbonate ions to build their shells and skeletons. But as the ocean gets more acidic, these essential building blocks are getting harder and harder to find. Imagine trying to build a house, but your bricks are literally dissolving in your hands. That's what's happening to these animals. In the Pacific Northwest, oyster farmers were horrified when their baby oysters started dying by the billions. The problem was the water, which was becoming so acidic that the baby oysters couldn't even form their first shells. And it's not just happening there. Scientists have seen pteropods, these tiny swimming sea snails, called sea butterflies, with their shells literally dissolving in the acidic waters of the Antarctic and the Pacific. These tiny creatures are a super important food source for everything from krill to salmon to whales. If they disappear, the entire food web would feel it. Coral reefs, the incredible rainforests of the sea, are also in huge trouble. Ocean warming is already causing massive bleaching events that are killing reefs like crazy. On top of that, acidification is making it even worse. It slows down coral growth and makes their skeletons weaker, basically turning them into dust. This is a gigantic problem because about 25% of all life in the ocean depends on coral reefs. As these habitats get destroyed, all the animals that live there disappear too. Even fish that don't have shells are getting messed up. The changing water chemistry can affect a fish's brain, messing with its ability to smell predators, find food, and even find its way home. What we are watching is a silent, invisible crisis that is completely changing the rules of life for the entire ocean. This is the second ticking time bomb, and our carbon emissions are winding the clock. These two threats, the leaking poison bombs and the invisible acid, are not happening separately. They are on a collision course, and they're about to hit marine life with a devastating 1-2 punch. Think about it like this. Ocean acidification is making the ocean's immune system weaker. An ecosystem that's already sick, where animals are struggling to grow and have babies, is way more likely to collapse from a sudden shock. Now, imagine a leaking barrel of mustard gas, or a giant oil spill from a sinking wee ship. A healthy ocean might be able to handle a disaster like that, but an ocean that is already weak from acidification, it might not survive. And when you combine these two things, it can be even worse. For example, some poisons can become even more toxic in acidic water, and some scientists think the acid could make the metal on shipwrecks and bombs corrode even faster, making them spill their poisons sooner. The ultimate victims here are the food webs that everything in the ocean depends on. At the very bottom of the food chain are tiny organisms like plankton that build shells. They're not just food, they also make a huge amount of the oxygen that we breathe. As they struggle to survive in acidic water, the entire pyramid of life that depends on them gets shaky, and it just gets worse as you go up. Fewer sea butterflies means less food for fish. Damaged coral reefs mean fewer homes for thousands of other animals. Poisoned sand means toxic chemicals get into shellfish, which are then eaten by bigger fish, sea mammals, and then us. This is a direct threat to fishing industries all over the world, which give billions of people food and jobs. We're not just talking about losing cool animals. We're talking about risking our own food supply. We are pushing our oceans to a final tipping point. By making marine life fight a war on two fronts against the slow burn of acid and the sudden shock of poison, we are risking a total collapse that could take thousands of years to fix. The future I just described is terrifying, but it is not hopeless. We set the clocks on these time bombs with our actions, and we can stop them with our actions. But we are seriously running out of time. To stop these bombs, we need to attack on two fronts. For the underwater graveyards of bombs and chemicals, we need the whole world to work together to find, track, and figure out which dumps are the most dangerous. For the absolute worst ones, we have to invent and use new tech to safely remove the poisons before they leak anymore. It's a huge job, but doing nothing would be infinitely worse. For the invisible acid, the answer is just as obvious, but way more complicated. We have to cut our global carbon emissions drastically. There is no other option. The chemistry doesn't care about our opinions. Every ton of CO2 we stop from going into the air is a step back from the edge for our oceans. That means we have to switch to renewable energy, protect our forests, and completely change our industries. These are not two separate problems. They are two parts of the same crisis. A healthy ocean can handle the poisons we left behind. A clean ocean can handle the bigger problem of climate change. The fate of our oceans is the fate of our planet. They are not too big to fail. The deep, dark parts of the ocean that seem so far away are completely connected to our lives, from the air we breathe to the food we eat. The first step is to drag these secret threats out of the darkness and into the light. Share this video. Talk about this. Demand that our leaders and governments finally take this seriously. We have a choice. We can be the generation that stands by and watches these time bombs go off, destroying our oceans. Or we can be the generation that decides to fix it to clean up our past and build a future. The clock is ticking, but we still get to decide how this story ends.